Today's lesson is a continuation of factoring trinomials. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. It is 2x squared minus 18x plus 28. When we wrote out our steps, step number 1 was to look for a GCF. And if I look at these three terms, I know that each number can be divided by 2. The way I always check for a GCF is to look at the lowest number, which is 2, and see if it can divide into 18 and 28, which it can. So we're going to divide each term by 2 and go ahead and take it out and put it in front of the whole trinomial. So we're going to write out 2. When I simplify this, 2 divided by 2 is 1x squared, or just x squared. Negative 18x divided by 2 is negative 9x. And 28 divided by 2 is 14. So now, instead of working with larger numbers, we have made it smaller, and our a became 1, just like yesterday's lesson. So we ignore the 2 until we get to our final answer, and when we write our final answer in the two binomials, we'll just write the 2 out in front because the whole thing will be multiplied by 2. So let's start the solving or factoring. A equals 1, B equals negative 9, and C equals 14. If you don't need to write that step out, that's on you. It's okay if you don't want to. Go ahead and make our x with our new A, B, and C. So A times C, B below. 1 times 14 is 14. Bottom number is negative 9. So we need multiples of 14 that add to 9. So go ahead and write our multiples. 1 and 14. 2 times 7 is 14. The two multiples that add to 9, this would be 15. 2 and 7 is 9 though. So we're going to pick 2 and 7. Can't stress it enough that the order does not matter, because the order of multiplication does not matter. Double check my signs. 2 times 7 is positive 14, but 2 plus 7 is positive 9. So both of these terms need to be negative to be able to multiply to a positive and add to a negative. So double check. Negative 2 times negative 7, positive 14. Negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9. We still need to take our side numbers and divide it by a. We cannot forget this step. I know our a equals 1, but on our next lesson it will not be 1. So we cannot forget this step. Negative 2 divided by 1 is negative 2. Negative 7 divided by 1 is negative 7. We need to bring down this 2 in front of our first binomial, or in front of both. And we just need to rewrite these as binomials. They're both negative, so I know they're going to have minus signs in them. This is 1x, or just x, minus 2. And same thing here, x minus 7. And there's your answer. So the only thing we are adding today is if you actually do have a GCF, all you do is you take it out or divide it out from all the terms and rewrite it out in front of your answer. Let's go ahead and do another example together. Example 2, let's say it's 5x squared minus 40x minus 100. If I look at this problem as a whole right now, it kind of looks like I'm going to be using large numbers. Need to see if there's a GCF, so look at the smallest number, which is 5. To ask myself, can 5 divide into 40 and 100? It definitely can. So let's go ahead and factor out 5, or divide it out. 5 divided by 5 is 1x squared. Negative 40 divided by 5 would be negative 8x. Negative 100 divided by 5 is negative 20. Definitely smaller numbers. A equals 1. B equals negative 8. C equals negative 20. Let's go ahead and make our x. A times C, B below. 1 times negative 20 is negative 20. B is negative 8. You need to think of the multiples of 20, so the two numbers that multiply to become it. Always start with 1 in whatever the number is. 1 times 20. 2 times 10. 3 doesn't divide into it, but 4 and 5 multiply to become it. It is negative 20, so I'm looking to subtract the 8. If I subtract these two, I get 19. Subtract these two, and I get 8. So I don't even need to check 4 and 5, but if I did, it would be 1, which is not 8. 2 and 10. Since the 8 is negative, I know that my bigger number needs to be negative for the addition to work out to be negative. Double check the signs. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. 2 minus 10 is negative 8. Good to go. Go ahead and take these numbers and divide it by 1. Okay, reduces to 2, reduces to negative 10. We already knew nothing would happen. So we would rewrite our binomials as x plus 2 times x minus 10, positive, negative, making sure those go together. And then I just need to remember to carry down the number I factored out, which is 5. You can still check your answer if you really wanted to make sure that you are correct by putting these back into the area model and then taking the answer that you get and multiplying it by 5. If I want to go ahead and show you guys, just to make sure you guys are good on that, not to leave you hanging on that. So, x plus 2, x negative 10, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, negative 10 times x is negative 10x, and negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. Combine, I have x squared, this becomes negative 8x, and then negative 20. Okay, I also know that I need to multiply this by 5 because that's what we factored out, and all I've done is this multiplication, so missing this 5 part. Distribute the 5, I get 5x squared minus 40x minus 100, so we knew we were correct. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys one to practice, where you guys can pause the video and use it as time to practice. So 3x squared minus 15x plus 18. Working on number 1, look at the smallest number. It is 3. See if 3 can divide into 15 and 18. It definitely can, so you guys should have divided the whole trinomial by 3 or factored the 3 out. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so it's just x squared. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5x, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, A equals 1, B equals negative 5, and C equals 6. Make our x, and then do A times C above, B below. 1 times 6 is 6, B is negative 5. Multiples of 6, we have 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. It's positive 6, so I need them to add to 5. 1 plus 6 is 7, so it's definitely 2 and 3. Now my B is negative, so we should start seeing that pattern, that if it is positive as AC and negative as my B, then both my terms should be negative. Double check. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So take my side numbers, negative 2 divided by 1, which is still negative 2. Negative 3 divided by 1, which is negative 3. Rewrite these as binomials, so it'd be x minus 2 times x minus 3, and just bring the 3 that we factored out. And there's your solution. Okay. One more to practice for us to go over. So here's number 2. 2x squared plus 8x minus 24. Go ahead and pause the video and work this one out. All right, looking at this, we look at 2. 2 can divide into 8 and 24, so we're going to take out the GCF. And it should have became x squared plus 4x minus 12, because again, we're just dividing all those numbers by 2. My a equals 1, my b equals 4, and my c equals negative 12. Go ahead and make our x, a times c, b below. I should have gotten a negative 12 and positive 4 below. Multiples of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. It's negative, so subtracting the 4, this subtracts to 11. 6 minus 2 is 4, so pick 2 and 6. One of them has to be negative because it's a negative 12 when multiplying. It's a positive 4, so I know my bigger number should be positive, making 2 negative. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. Take negative 2 and divide it by 1, which is still negative 2. Take 6, divide by 1, which is still 6. We just need to write our final answer in factored form. Bring down our 2. This binomial would become x minus 2. And this factored would be x plus 6.